Hi everyone, welcome back to Review It with Gigi. On today's episode of Buy It or Buy It, we'll be looking at different Rolexes and the pros and cons of this crazy investment. I know this is not the typical thing that I review, but my little brother has been going crazy over these watches and talking about how he really wants to get one. So I thought it would be cool to do a little research and see what this crazy investment's about and figure out if it's really worth all the hype. And with a lot of deep diving and some crazy research, I've been able to find some pretty cool things in different articles about these Rolexes and about how crazy these investments really are and if they're really worth your time and money. So the first article that I found was called 10 Compelling Reasons to Invest in a Rolex Watch by Hans Watches. A very creative title, don't you say? And now we're going to break it down and dive deep into what it's really talking about. As we can guess, it goes through the 10 very reasonable steps of why we should buy a Rolex. So let's dive into them, and why not get into the ethos, logos, and pathos of this article, because as I said before, and I will say it again, every text, every talk, every conversation pretty much in the entire world, you either have one of ethos, logos, or pathos, and just so happened in this article you got all three. But before diving into all of that, let's just give a little brief about the article and what it says in the first place. So first, it talks about how extremely crafty these watches are like no other. They have extreme detail, super high quality, and they're designed to be usable for a lifetime. They have a very specific designs to them, and they stick out, making them very beautiful but very expensive and a huge investment. Though they might be a huge investment, as time goes on and the older the watch gets, the more expensive and rare it gets, meaning the more money that it will be if you sell it. Rolex's being a huge investment is also a huge benefit because the older it gets, the more it ages and the more expensive it begins to get and the more rare it begins to get. So if you do choose to sell it again, then it'll be very expensive and you'll make a lot of money for it. But if you do not choose to sell it, the legacy continues to get passed down through it. Also, Hansa says that each model carries a story and a heritage that appeals to each collector worldwide. And they're such a high investment because their collectability is unique to every single watch. So every single watch made has their own story and their own collectability, making them so rare but such a high investment. Also, another cool but fun fact that was mentioned in the article was that the demand for Rolexes are extremely high because of the overall desire for them around the world. And a trick that you might encounter if you are trying to purchase a Rolex, just like some people in my family, that if you do not speak the native language, they are less likely to sell to you and they will increase the prices, making it extremely challenging for those not in the native country to buy the watch and for those around the world to buy a watch from a different country. Especially in Europe, this happens quite often with different travelers coming in and out. So with that, just unpacking all of that, there's so much ethos, logos, and pathos used in this article that I'm so excited to unpack. First, we'll unpack ethos, which is also known as the reliability and credibility of something. So when advertising something, most brands use different forms of it to sell their products better and to have better customers to buy it. It's also known as consumerism. So in this article, ethos is used when talking about how reliable and trustworthy these Rolexes are and the high quality of it because they want everyone to be able to buy it and rely on the Rolexes and know that they can trust it. Also, they talk about how different it is and the craftsmanship and how deep the thought is into each one of them. It also talks about the different craftsmanship and how deep the craftsmen think about the creation of the watch, showing that how unique each watch is and how reliable and different they all are and how not a single Rolex watch is the same. They be the same brand or like the same design, but none of them are the same. They're all unique to themselves. Obviously, they also are very credible and you can use them and you can take them anywhere and they're very easily to use and they do not often break because of how nice and well put together they are. And with them being so reliable and credible, it also leads to the next thing, which is logos, which logos is also known as emotions. In this article, it talks about emotion because of the success that can happen when you invest in a Rolex. So when buying a Rolex, it's a crazy investment, but with that investment, you know that you are successful enough to be able to purchase a Rolex. And with that, you're able to invest and allow the Rolex to age to be able to sell it if needed in the future for the extremely high price that it is. So if you buy a Rolex now, you are able to sell it for maybe double, even triple the price in the future. I in a few minutes I'll get into a very good example of that happened just a few years ago. Also, the heritage that can be passed down and the legacy of it increases the rate. So as the heritage, let's say my brother does end up buying a Rolex one day, he passes it down to his son, and in 20 years his son passes it down to his other son, and in 150 years this Rolex is triple the amount that it was worth, leading to very increase of rate and money. Knowing that you have that connects back to your emotions, because obviously everybody desires that and wants that, and it's very special to the family, especially if it's passed down through heritage. And last, we'll look at logos, which is the logical reason of why you should buy a Rolex, which is really the most important one. In the article, it talks about the craftsmanship of it and how nice it is to have a Rolex and why you should get one and how well they're made. The logic behind it is that they're each uniquely made and well made, meaning that it will not break and this watch will last you a lifetime. It also talks about how they're slowly pieced together and how with the slowly piecing together and well made, you will be able to use it forever. It will not break on you and you can pass it down through heritage. Also, the financial logic behind it is the rate that will increase and the money you'll make from it investing in it and in the future. So that was just a quick spiel of the ethos, logos, and pathos used in this article and why you should really buy a Rolex. Right now, I'm kind of getting convinced because in 20 years, I might be triple as rich as I am right now if I buy one. But I'm a broke college student, so what can I say? A crazy example about the Rolex investments and how much they go up for is the Rolex Daytona, which was produced in 1963. In 1963, the Rolex Daytona was produced and sold for around $210. In 2017, the Rolex Daytona sold to a guy named Paul Newman for a total of $17.8 million. The increase in value in that is absolutely astronomical, showing that just in 60 years how much the price of a Rolex can go up for and how valuable and rare they are the more that they continue. And now I'm going to talk about one more article before I end this video. I know I never really talk about articles and all this stuff in my videos, but I really wanted to be factual about this one, and I found out some pretty cool things, so I'm thinking about start switching my channel over to this stuff. I found an article by Paul Attire called "Are Rolex Watches a Good Investment?" and 3 Crucial Factors. So Paul also really emphasizes the fact of the craftsmanship and timelessness of the design and the potential value for it to grow. He mentions the investment, of course, knowing from Paul Newman how much it really is, and investing in the vintage model and how much more money you can make selling it through retail. He emphasizes how vintage watches are no longer in production and in selling, so that how rare that they really are, and especially if you didn't break your Rolex watch or if you didn't lose it when it was made back in the 1950s and 60s, you're able to sell it for an insane amount, for it being a vintage watch. He also talks about how the value is extreme and how it's much better than any brand of watches and how you're able to see the uniqueness in each Rolex that you have. Here are a few pictures of all the cool, different, and beautiful watches that I was able to look up and find. As you can see, each one is truly unique and very different and has a very different story behind the craftsmanship and beauty behind it. Rolexes are a crazy investment, but they're investment and they're worth your time and management to be able to keep good care of them, pass it down to your children for a vintage resale rate of much more than you could even imagine paying for. Though I am a broke college student, this definitely did spark my interest about investing in different things that I can resell in the future and the rate that it's going to increase by investing in these things. I hope I was able to answer any questions, and I totally recommend looking into these because it was so cool and so beautiful to look at these different watches, even though you think a watch is just a daily thing used, and a lot of us have our Apple Watches now, but you never know. A Rolex is just such a unique thing, that you would I would never have looked into unless my brother begged me. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you were able to learn some cool new facts and see how ethos, logos, and pathos is used once again in every single thing that we do in our daily life. Though I didn't break it down in the second article, it pretty much states the exact same thing said in the first article, and in every article you find, it's around the same things about how cool and big of an investment it is and how it really connects to each personal life individually. But don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and maybe I'll do another review about this one. Hopefully my brother approves of this video. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Or buy it. Bye.